Welcome to Brew Crime, the podcast where we talk true crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. My name is Mike, and my co-host is
It's me, JT. Ready for
Tizzle.
ready for another entry into the Rock Crime Chronicles.
Yes.
Oh God.
Oh, you know what? There we go. I'll be Fat Mike.
Oh.
No effects fame.
Yes. You got it, man. You got it. He'll be a guest on our next show. No, he won't, but that'd be
He'd probably get us in trouble. I love Fat Mike, but he'd probably get us in trouble.
That's probably true. We do that well enough on our own. I don't know if we need anybody to help. Yeah, so we're doing the second installment of Crimes of Rock.
Yes.
And so obviously you all heard last time about dang it, Bobby. And his lovely choices. And some of his music too, which wasn't as lovely.
No, it was pretty shitty, really.
I'm pretty open to all music, but I'd have to be in quite the mood. And by that, I mean on acid.
Yes.
For his.
Which he probably was somehow in prison, maybe.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe his wife brought it in.
Yeah, right? For that very brief time. That was his infraction to get him back.
Probably.
Today, we were going to talk about Ian Watkins in a script that I'm calling Monstar. Because, boy, I was watching Space Jam at the time. And that's just what happens.
Okay. It's either that or you're listening to, what was their name? Hey, now we're a star.
Oh, Smash Mouth?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Ooh, that guy would get
Monstar.
anybody in trouble.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
Turns out he's pretty shitty, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a pretty shitty guy.
Story.
He was pretty drunk when I saw him.
That's for next episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. We're just going to extend this one another, 10 episodes.
Well, we could.
we really could. I was interested in kind of, number one, we're going to hear about the case, but also I was interested in the whole concept of being a rock star and kind of how does that lend itself to the psyche of like doing anything you want and think you can get away with it, things like that. So being a rock star affords one a lot of freedom.
Oh, yeah.
So much freedom that I forgot to talk about this very quick beer pairing that I don't really have, but it's here. And it's a dry hopped sour. And it's by the State of Brewing. And I found it at my local Aldi, which is very much like your small town supermarket. So
okay.
Feel free. But it leaves me sour, just like Ian Watkins. So, sure, there's artistic freedom. Speaking of freedom, doors open that might not typically be open. But if behaviors remain unchecked, rock stars can get lost while speeding down the highway of life at hundreds of miles an hour.
Absolutely.
Brian Van Dyke said, quote, rock stardom isn't compatible with satisfaction. It is, in essence, satisfaction's very antithesis. To be a rock star is to revel in need, because it is the ongoing and relentless need of the audience that calls them into being. Which I really like that quote a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that there is something in what he says, and whether it's the music artist who feels that way or the business of music that drives the feeling of always needing more, producing more, earning more, it's a reality we have to consider. Rock stars aren't born. I think it's safe to say that it's nurture and not nature.
Yeah.
Although, we are led to believe that some are born with an innate talent for music, which is, which that paired with sheer luck can, lead somebody to being a larger than life rock star.
I mean, hey, my sister is definitely far more musically talented than I am.
And I think that it's the need or want for more that seems to drive celebrities. So like Lane Staley, the singer for Alice in Chains, he did an amazing job.
Rest
they
in
sold
peace.
Millions. I know. And despite the drug problem that he had that was debilitating, they did all that stuff. But that's not why he became a rock star. In Staley's case, he wanted to become a rock star as a kid because he believed becoming a celebrity would lead his father to get back in touch with him, who he lost, or who left. He ended up dying way too soon, emaciated, living alone in an apartment because that didn't happen. He said he regretted how his life ended, and Van Dyke said it was, quote, as if he were following someone else's script.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of how I see rock stars most of the time. It's a script that's followed to ensure, quote, greatness. I don't think rock stars have as much autonomy as we think they do.
No.
And as they make us believe they do. So they search for other ways to find that autonomy.
Yeah. Did you mention any other rock stars? Is that the one?
I just mentioned him.
Well, because it's like, Kurt Cobain, got destroyed by the fame that was so fast.
Right.
And drugs took over, and who knows? He was
there's
killed.
a lot of yeah.
You know, Bradley Knoll from Sublime, again, fame
Right.
destroyed him before he even got like as big as he did, and died of a drug overdose. Yeah, like
Yeah.
happens to a
And
lot.
yeah, and so Van Dyke says the function of a rock star is, at its most existential level, the function of a hero, the comforter, the shaman, all in one. We look to them for relief at moments when we need a pickup, or when we need to fill the quiet of an empty room, or the boring lull of a long drive. We turn to pop stars as teenagers because they assure us of the possibilities of the world ahead. And as adults, they also sometimes remind us of the orderly calm of the nostalgic past. They are like us, but not us, possessed of our appetites, but appetites at a scale that would kill most normal human beings. And I think this is really important to remember in most cases. And I'm quite aware that this could be misinterpreted as me excusing behaviors, and I'm definitely not at all.
No.
There are some behaviors that are beyond anything or any one thing that could have contributed to them. And I think it's just important to gain perspective or bring another interesting idea to the table.
Yep.
So why? Well, when I read through the documentation I could find on Ian Watkins, I wondered about the psyche of a rock star. What did it mean to be one? What do people work to attain that status? What does it do to that person? And I found a lot of it in Brian Van Dyke's article called The Fault in Our Rock Stars. And look it up because it's short, but it's really, really interesting.
I mean, yeah, just like, again, this is not for bad people, but like, look at what rock stardom did to Chris Cornell. Like, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, right? Like, rock stardom is not always an amazing thing.
No, not at all. And so today we're going to talk about Lostprophets singer Ian Watkins. And I'm not going to lie, this case is utterly horrific. Not in terms of gore and murder, but in terms of, and this is a disclaimer, sexual abuse of a child, grooming, and more. And I'll say this now. If this isn't something you're comfortable with, not that you're comfortable with it, or if it's triggering to you, I implore you, and it's fine, please, you can skip this episode. I would hate to be that person that brought things back or caused issues. So I'm just letting you know that now.
You know what's crazy? I almost picked the case of the singer of Headley, which is a British Columbia band. What's his name here? And all kinds of crazy sexual misconduct with him. I just couldn't find enough information, and it's still kind of going on.
Oh, geez.
Jacob Hoggard. Oh, he's been sentenced to 5 years in prison now. But, before I've even heard your case, it sounds kind of similar to his.
Yeah, this is if it's similar, then, they should be roommates.
We'll see. His was all just sexual misconducts and stuff, so we'll see how this goes.
But... Oh, this is pretty bad.
Okay.
So I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of all of Ian Watkins' charges. And that's basically a 10-4 hell no. It always has been. No one needs to hear about every detail I read in the sentencing remarks. But if you do want to read it, it'll be in the sources section here and on the website, so you can check that out. I will be giving you broad strokes with a few details along the way, much like a Bob Ross panting from hell. That's what that is. So Ian Watkins was born Ian David Carslake Watkins on July 30th, 1977. Today he is 45. He was born in, oh man, this is based in Wales. So there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make these pronunciations any better.
No.
He was born in Merthyr Tydfil, Wales, but he was raised in Pontypridd. I think it's Pontypridd. His father died when he was a child, and his mother, Elaine, remarried John Davies, a Baptist minister. Mom and John had a child, Daniel, and they all seemed to get along just fine. It seemed to be an uneventful life growing up. In fact, Daniel said he was proud of his brother until he found out what was going on. Ian not only seemed to have a good life with good and supportive parents, he was also extremely intelligent. He was a straight A student and went to Hawthorne High School. He graduated from there and went to the University of Wales, where he received the equivalent of an undergrad degree in graphic design. The British call it a first-class honors degree, which sounds a lot cooler, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When he was at Hawthorne High School, he met Mike Lewis, who would eventually become a bandmate of his in Lostprophets. They created a band in 91 called Aftermath, which was a thrash metal band that literally played in a shed in Watkins' garden.
Sounds about right for a lot of thrash metal bands.
Right. Watkins abandoned Aftermath and created a new band with Lee Gaze called Fleshbind. This was less thrash and more American hardcore punk.
It's actually a good name.
It really is a good name. The group didn't last very long, though. Watkins then reunited with his former drummer of Aftermath, Mike Lewis, and they played in a hardcore band called Public Disturbance. At the same time, Watkins and Gaze then created their own band, Lostprophets, who made their live debut alongside the band Public Disturbance. And finally, in 98, Watkins left Public Disturbance to focus on Lostprophets. Ultimately, Lostprophets released 5 studio albums between 2000 and 2012. They toured in Europe and America, and they received several Kerrang Awards and nominations and sold over 3 million albums worldwide.
They sound familiar. They do sound familiar.
They had a really big hit called Last Train Home was a big one for them. And that came out in like 2004.
Should I pull up that song and play
You can, yeah, sure.
Yeah, if he wasn't such a piece of garbage, it's actually not that bad.
Right? It really does remind me of like that early thousands, mid thousands, 2000s, like rock and roll.
Yeah.
Where you like cut out real quick and just have the guitar playing clean.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, it's like a Three Doors Down type thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So at the time, reportedly, he was world famous as a rock singer who refused to drink or do drugs. And at some point in 2008, this seemed to change. And his behavior changed as well. Along with adding drugs to his life, he reportedly became obsessed with online pornography and images depicting abuse.
Because the pornography part's not a problem, but the abuse is.
Yeah, I think obsession.
Yeah, obsession's bad.
That's bad. It's obviously a subjective word, depending on who wrote this. But I'm going to go and trust the person who wrote that.
Yeah.
So
sounds like probably should, yes.
Yeah, I'll get a little more into what was found on his computer later.
Ruh-roh.
So while this can tend to lead somebody down a path for sure, I don't know if it was the only thing. I think there's plenty of unreported items or things we don't know about him that he felt did whatever that led him to be here. You don't just flip into this. I don't think that's
not usually, yeah.
Ian was in and out of relationships, but then again, so was I at a certain
Especially
point,
if you're a musician. You mean, shit.
Yeah. In early 2000s, he was in a relationship with musician Alicia Simmons. 2003 to 2005, he was in a relationship with Marissa Festa, who's now married to a guitarist in the rock band AFI.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Then he dated Fearne Cotton, English broadcaster and author. And then from 2006 to 2011, he dated and became engaged to long-term girlfriend Joanne Nikita Majik, an English model. She broke this off due to, well, the obvious.
Yeah.
Or what's going to become obvious. So as far as I could track back, although he was charged in 2012, this goes back to 2006 and gets increasingly worse. It's truly a descent into darkness and depravity. And I think it should be said that the band has been described by a story in the BBC News as, quote, peddling angst and rebellion, sweetened by anthemic choruses and a punk meets skater boy image. Lostprophets attracted many disenfranchised young fans. So why is this important? The main reason I think this is important is that first, it's probably true having listened to some of their stuff and having, played it here, but also because Ian Watkins preyed on his fans. And I think he knew the type of fans that his band had, and he used that to his advantage while taking advantage of them. In 2007, Watkins met up with a girl from Boston, Massachusetts. The girl had reached out saying she was a fan. Now, here's where I want to make it incredibly clear. The reports of this state, and I quote, saying she was a fan and was a virgin and went to meet him wearing a schoolgirl uniform in a hotel.
Oh, geez.
I will add to this that in the sentencing remarks from the judge, it defined more of what actually happened in terms of what he convinced her to do. And here's a quote from it. And of course, they abbreviated the girl's name. You met TT after a Lostprophets concert when she was 16, a 16-year-old virgin. The prospect of taking her virginity excited you. You got her to dress in a schoolgirl's outfit, and you videoed her and you having oral, vaginal, and anal sex. You asked her whether she enjoyed being your underage slut. At the end, you urinated over her face and told her to drink it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, in other words, news outlets check your facts before you report on something, making it sound like you're blaming the victim, like that first quote that I had. I don't think it was as simple as her just dressing up and going to see him.
No, for sure. And regardless, even if it was, she's a 16-year-old kid and he's a rock star. You have to know that regardless, you're an adult and she's a child. Like, there's a power dynamic issue here, right? Of course, this girl is gonna want to, get to know her like famous crush or whatever. Even, shake her hand, say hi. That's all you do with an underage kid, right?
Ian was not well known for shaking hands.
I believe it.
Yeah. In October 2008, 2 years later, he filmed himself having sex with yet another 16-year-old fan and urinated on them as well. And this is
I'm glad he's stupid and filmed it.
Yep. So this is a string of similar offenses that he committed. It's not just these two, but that gives you a small idea of how depraved this man is to start.
Yeah.
He was charged in 2012 with crimes that shouldn't even have to be drafted as crimes, but he was a fucking terrible human being, and he and others are the reasons we have them. And we will get back to the story that happened throughout the years between 2006 and 12 just to explain his psyche and how fucked he was. But until then, here is what he was charged with. Attempted rape of a child under 13, sexual assault of a child under 13, taking, making, or possessing indecent images of children, possessing an extreme pornographic image involving a sex act on an animal, and the total number of charges looks like it was around 32. So,
just a couple, yep.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So let's go back to 2004 real quick and talk about his interactions and messages relationship with a woman who met him backstage at an overseas gig that year. Why do I want to cover this? Because it gives you a little more in terms of the process and manipulation that he went through with the people, as I said above.
Yeah.
So after their initial meeting, 2 years later, she messaged him for tickets to a music festival. They started up a sexual relationship, including meetings over the years. Quote, we went to the show and we were backstage. He came out and met her. This is the woman's daughter at that point, and took some photos, and everything was normal. And then he later signed a poster addressed to my daughter describing her as, quote, beautiful. Later, he actually saw the photos of him and my daughter and her friend, and a few years later said him and my daughter would make a really good looking couple. She was 7 in the photo.
Yeah. What?
Oh, if you're pissed now. By 2010, the woman was convinced he was insane. He was inviting her to shows all the time to, quote, help him. He wanted her to find young girls at the show. Quote, you can find us some young sluts to abuse. She told him that he was using his fame and that those young girls loved him and that he was using his fame to live out sexual fantasies. And she said Watkins kept in touch with a network of groupies around the world. She knew at least 7 others throughout Europe.
And you know what? Like, as long as these groupies are of age and everyone's consenting, fine. Yep. But these are children.
Yeah.
They're not adults.
A lot of the time. Yeah. During that relationship with the woman early in 2010, Watkins would pretty much talk obsessively about drugs and his child abuse fantasies to the women he was meeting for sex.
Jesus Christ.
He would talk about what he wanted to do to babies, but you never think there's a fan out there that would say, quote, here's my baby.
I sure as fucking hope not. Yeah.
Yeah. He wanted to be evil. That's what he told her. He wanted to be evil. He suggested they should have a baby because he wanted to raise it to be evil like him. Quote, a year later, he said he wanted us to have a baby so he could have his way with the baby and my daughter could watch how it's done. At one point, he wanted to get together with her and her mom, the woman's mom. When she firmly rejected all of that, he wanted her mom's address so he could pay her a visit.
This guy's so fucking delusional in so many ways.
Back to this woman and her daughter. I was talking to him on Skype. He wanted me to go and get her from the other room. He was masturbating so she could see how hot he was so that she could tell the woman how much she wanted him. So there was an instance in which this conversation happened, and I pieced it together from the report. Quote, in one chilling message sent on March 4th, 2011, the woman innocently asked him to DJ at her daughter's birthday party. Watkins replied, quote, only if I can... This is bleeped out, but I'm pretty sure it said fuck her. When the woman protested, the Twisted Star posted a winking face and wrote, quote, haha, before telling her, quote, show her that pic of me and see what she says. You hate it that she thinks I'm hot.
What?
Yeah. I won't lie. I would have shut this whole thing down years before this woman ended up shutting it down, but I don't know the whole context in the situation. I think it should have been shut down, but I'm not about to blame.
No.
So there's a lot of shit here, a lot of bad shit. She asked why Ian was doing this, and he said it was because he was bored and wanted to spread his evil. Yeah. So, of course, this wasn't the only person that he was grooming, communicating with, or manipulating. I'm sure there were a lot of them. One is too many, but I'm sure there were hundreds over the years, which we think he was actually doing this. So I'm going to glance through the sentencing document from the judge. It's horrifying. We talked about what the judge wrote regarding the 2007 meetup he had with his 16-year-old fan. So we'll move past that. Here's part of the introduction. Quote, any decent person looking at and listening to the material here will experience shock, revulsion, anger, and incredulity. What you three did plumbed new depths of depravity. Now, you might be saying, wait a second, why three? Well, Watkins was able to find two women with infants or babies who were willing to do what he asked them to do.
Fuck me.
Yeah, and we're going to talk briefly about that, but not a bunch because I have to draw the line somewhere.
Yes.
And that's it. So the judge continued, quote, you, Watkins, achieved fame and success as the lead singer of Lostprophets, and you had many fawning fans. That gave you power. You knew you could use that power to induce young female fans to help satisfy your apparently insatiable lust and to take part in the sexual abuse of their young children. Away from the highlights of your public performances lay a dark and sinister side. I wouldn't say it's that far away.
No.
So in addition to the 16-year-old in 2007, there was a count dating to August 2008, which I mentioned above. He videoed her while having oral sex with him, and she is seen snorting white powder that she was told was cocaine.
Oh, Jesus.
Drugs are a huge link, and they were involved in a lot of the activities he wished to and did participate in. One count related to about 90 indecent photos of children on his computer, ages 2 through 14. A group was called to help police access encrypted files on Watkins' computer. They found that one of his passwords was I fuck kids.
That's concerning.
Yep. Another count involves images and videos of extreme pornography, including 22 images of bestiality, including sex with dogs. Now, in addition to Watkins, two women were charged and convicted along with him. The first woman was basically given the pseudonym B. B met Watkins at the age of 19 in 2011. She was manipulated by him, but what happened to her 10-month-old infant is ungodly.
Because I was like, she's 19, like, not that bad. Oh, infant. Fuck.
Yeah. So they had detailed discussions about the sexual acts the two of them were going to subject her infant to. I believe the infant was also introduced to methamphetamine. Yeah, Mike. Yep. I told you I was going to bring this down.
Oh, my God.
They recorded a video of Watkins doing terrible things to the infant. The mother did as well. And a while later, she sent him a text saying, quote, the boy is ready to be abused. So
oh my God. This is like reminding me of who are those Canadian killers that they abused the sister and the sister died? Why am I going blank?
It's that amazing beer.
Paul Bernardo and Carla Molka, almost.
Yes.
I mean, there's murder there, but yeah.
Right. The second woman, she was 22 or 23 when she met Watkins, with communication starting August 2012. They spoke of moving in together, and Watkins said, quote, if you belong to me, so does your baby. And she responded, quote, understandable, a mother-daughter slave duo worshiping you.
No.
Communications included conversations about forcing the little girl to engage in sex with animals and how to take drugs. He referred to her child as, quote, my little fuck toy. Her child was literally nothing more than an object. She also sent extremely graphic videos to Watkins of her daughter, and they had Skype sessions involving her daughter and actions done to her daughter, as well as he sat there and gratified himself. Obviously, that's a broad stroke. The sentencing documents are very graphic. I sat next to Carrie in bed because this is what I study in bed. I research this stuff in bed, and every time that I got to a line, I'd be like, "Oh my, what the?" And Carrie was like, "What are you looking up?" And I was like, "I'm not talking to you about this.
No,
I'm just
good
not.
thing.
I'm just not." So, in terms of sentences, Watkins got 35 years. He has to serve 2/3 of the custodial term before he can be considered for release by the parole board, and that would put that at year 2029.
And I hope that doesn't happen because he needs to stay in prison.
And you'll see why in a bit, why it's probably not going to happen. B was sentenced to 14 years. P was sentenced to 17 years. And the concluding statement was, quote, "I am satisfied that you are deeply corrupting influence. You are highly manipulative. You are a sexual predator. You are dangerous. The public, and in particular, young females and children, need protection from you." Other comments on this trial included the following. Detective Peter Doyle said, "The sentences reflected the gravity of the crimes, and the investigation uncovered the most disturbing child abuse evidence he had seen in his 28 years as an officer. Quote, today's sentence does not mark the end of our investigations, and we will work tirelessly to identify any other victims or witnesses and seek the justice they deserve." I couldn't find anything else on further investigation.
Yeah.
They could still be doing it, but it's also been, 11 years. Suzanne Thomas of the Crown Prosecution Service said, quote, "He is a highly dangerous and manipulative individual who preyed on his victims in a calculated manner. The other two defendants were active participants in the most shocking abuse of their own children." But it's not over.
Of course it isn't.
Yep. A day after admitting 2 counts of attempted rape of an infant before the trial, he told a female fan that he was going to issue a statement when he was sentenced, saying it had all been, quote, "mega LOLs," which is haunting because the phrase mega LOLs was used by the Lostprophets on some of their t-shirts. And the group also performed in front of a backdrop saying mega LOLs on the main stage of the Reading Festival in 2010.
Okay, that's fucking creepy.
But it's still not over. He takes no responsibility, only shows enough remorse about him being caught and nothing more. And while in prison, he has been found to have, through letters, bombarded a mom with demands for raunchy photos. He signed the letters as the King of Dancers and the Boy Wonder. He was affectionate in parts of the letters, but became increasingly insistent and forceful as time went on. And the worst part about this is that the exchange started after he was convicted and lasted until 2017, all while the woman had a 6-year-old daughter.
Yeah, that's fucking creepy.
She had to be blocked by the Ministry of Justice, who said that he posed, quote, "a serious threat towards your daughter's safety and your own well-being."
Yeah.
Despite all of this, she remained sympathetic to him and said he was a sick man who deserved to be in a hospital rather than a prison. And she said, quote, "I don't think his messages were inappropriate. I think he's a bit of a flirt, and it was just flirty stuff which went both ways. It was harmless."
No, it's very obviously very harmful because we've seen what he's done.
Yeah, and it's obviously changed her mind around to certain things because she thinks it's harmless. So I don't think it's harmless.
No.
So despite that, somebody did report her to the police and social services. I think she actually might have lost her kid.
As much as I don't like kids being taken from their parents, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. But it's still not over. In 2019, he was convicted of having a 3-inch G-Star mobile in his cell. While being strip searched, they found it right up the old bum. And first, he used the classic "it's not mine," and that didn't really play ball. And then he said he was worried
just gonna keister someone else's phone, right?
Yeah, for funsies. He said he was worried so after that, "it's not mine," he said he was worried his mother wouldn't be able to see him, so he wanted to speak with her. But he used his phone to contact at least one woman he knew who reported the cell phone possession to police.
Oh, God.
Quote, "She appeared at the trial stating that she had known Watkins back when she was 19 and that the two had previously dated before breaking off contact in 2012. The pair apparently reconnected back in 2016 via letters, phone calls, and emails sent legitimately from prison. So he was contacting this woman without her consent via the cell phone that was taken away from him. he was convicted of that, and upon reaching the date for parole, they will add 10 months to his prison sentence.
No, that's a good side.
Still not over. Watkins was in the news 2 years prior after he got a mother arrested, trying to allegedly groom her so he could abuse her 2-year-old son. She lost custody. But that's not all.
Of course it's not.
So there's a lot of questions that come up when these things are discovered. You know, Mike, if you had to ask one question about this case, what would it be?
Why didn't someone that was related to these children take this guy out?
Right. So could this have been stopped? Did anybody know this? That? The answer is they did know about it. And if you were incensed by now, first, what's wrong with you? And second, you're about to be.
I was very incensed already.
Yeah, you can be pissed. I'm going to use the Vice article, Why One of the World's Biggest Rock Stars Got Away with Child Abuse, written by Kevin E.G. Perry, published October 2017. To be clear, the band didn't know what was happening.
Okay.
They released something that said, many of you understandably want to know if we knew what Ian was doing. To be clear, we did not. We are heartbroken, angry, and disgusted at what has been revealed. Our hearts go out to Ian's family, the fans and friends he betrayed, and most importantly, the victims of his crimes and others like them.
And I hope that's true.
Yeah, I do too. Well, you know what? They discontinued and stopped making music as Lostprophets. They did not continue on. Now, they're music artists, and they created a new band called No Devotion, and they pulled in a new singer. In response to that, the bassist said, we just wrote music. I didn't know if anyone would ever want to hear it. I didn't know if anyone would ever hear it. We didn't know what else to do, which I think that's fair. I mean,
if you're musicians, they probably don't have, say, a university or college education, because they probably went straight to music, and that's all they know.
They write out their feelings in music. That's what that's what they do. So while the band didn't know what he was doing, guess who had a hunch?
Don't know. His parents?
The South Wales Police.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So of course they did, right?
Maybe they should have stopped it earlier then.
Yeah, even though he was not arrested until December of 2012, the police were first given information 4 years earlier.
4 years. Jesus Christ.
That would have nixed the whole infant sentencing.
Yeah.
Quote, on the 29th of December 2008, Watkins' ex-girlfriend, Joanne, phoned Rhonda Sinon Taff, Children's Services, to report that he had told her he had given an infant cocaine as well as touching the child in a sexual way. Children's Services passed this information to South Wales Police, who began an investigation. But by May of 2009, they decided there was insufficient evidence and no further action was taken.
Bad move.
Yep. Over the next 4 years, multiple women, including Joanne on several occasions, made complaints to police about Watkins' drug use, possession of indecent images of children, and sexual interest in children. All of these complaints were dismissed. Because the police weren't doing their jobs, his ex, Joanne, tried to gather evidence against him to present. In 2015, she stood trial for possessing and distributing the child's sex abuse images that she used to try and trap him.
Jesus. She's just trying to get him stopped.
She was cleared of any charges in wrongdoing.
Good.
Yep. Quote, at her own trial, Miadzalik described how the police had failed to act on the information she provided them with. At one point, she took one of the mothers that Watkins was grooming to the police, telling them that the woman was, quote, totally obsessed with Watkins and her baby will be raped by him. She said a police officer dismissed her claim by saying that she had clearly just been, quote, really upset by her ex-boyfriend. Miadzalik first learned of Watkins' sexual attraction to children in September of 2007, when she had been dating him for around a year. She told the trial that Watkins had described raping a 12-year-old girl in Los Angeles, and then the following December sent her a photograph of a 5-year-old girl who he described as, quote, super flirty, posing with cocaine. He said, quote, you know what little girls are like, she said in court. My heart sank because it made me ill. I was completely confused. I was totally in love with the man, yet he sent me this picture. How could I be in love with a man that sends that image?
Well said, yeah. How could you be?
Right. Due to her testimony, the South Wales Police were the subjects of an independent police complaints commission investigation. While the investigation determined that there was no evidence to show that police were impacted by Watkins' celebrity, and perhaps that's true, it just shows me that it was sheer incompetence.
Yeah.
Here's what they found. Initial police assessment of Joanne's credibility impacted negatively on the police responses over a 4-year period. All those involved in responding accepted the initial skeptical view of Miadzalik, her reports, demonstrating a lack of open-mindedness and professional curiosity. This continued until the right type of complainant came along. The incompetence was all over the board. But when Joanne reported Watkins and said that she had a text message on her phone that Watkins sent her August 2007 saying he wanted to have sex with children, the police never looked at her phone.
That's nuts. Like, give me a break. There's so much smoke here.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to end with a quote from the NSPCC, which is the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. This report's damning conclusion should be a wake-up call for all those involved. That a simple unchecked mobile phone could have helped to prevent further abuse by Watkins is unthinkable, and just one cause for significant concern amongst this catalog of basic failures. While Watkins is now thankfully behind bars where he belongs, and improvements have already been made by South Wales Police, it's clear that very serious mistakes were made in handling multiple early allegations, and this report's recommendation must be adopted swiftly. It is an incredibly difficult step to report child abuse, so it is imperative that when people do speak out, they have the utmost confidence in what they are reporting will be taken seriously and acted upon immediately. In some ways, then, it is most damning. The IPCC investigation found that Ian Watkins was not given special treatment by the police because he was a celebrity. That he didn't get away with it for so long because he was famous, but because the women who spoke up against him simply weren't believed.
Seems about right, unfortunately, and that's disgusting.
It is.
I wish police would more often believe women that complain about things.
Yeah, I just never understood that, because what does anybody have to gain? There is nothing to gain, really. You put yourself in the spotlight. Like, it's not a... Yeah. So, Watkins is currently housed in HM Prison Wakefield, known as the Monster House, where prisoners like Charles Bronson are housed.
Wow.
So it serves him right. And I think he and Charles Bronson should room together. To be honest with you. So that's Ian Watkins. I'm sorry that I've brought everybody down a level. But hopefully we have a Brewery report coming out soon that'll make you laugh.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, when I mentioned Headley there, their lead singer probably didn't commit as many crimes, but he's a similar kind of guy, it seems like. Because I couldn't find enough information on him. Let me just quickly.
I mean, as you're looking, there's been a lot of shitty cases that I've covered. Obviously, there's not one case that's not shitty, but this one probably is the worst one, without a doubt. There's been very few things of research. There's been very few research nights where I haven't just been like horrified and had to take a break. I needed to take a break. Yeah.
So, like, where is it here? Jacob Hoggard of Headley has an allegation against, where is it here? Touching of a sexual purpose directly or indirectly of a person under the age of 16. And there's 3 women and a girl on separate occasions. So, I mean, he's probably not as prolific, but pretty bad too.
And I'd never heard of this guy before.
No, me neither. The name of the band sounds familiar, but I didn't recognize the song.
Yeah. No, I mean, Lostprophets sounded very familiar to me, but I don't know whether it's because this was basically taken care of in South Wales or what.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's bad.
It's definitely very bad.
I'm glad he's fucking away, and hopefully they've revoked any of those contact privileges. But that being said, it's still reported that he receives like 44 letters a day or something.
And I mean, he could get another keister phone. Who knows?
Yeah.
Where does he hide the charger?
I think they found the charger in the room, but that's a really good question. Maybe it was just like hanging out of his bottom pants leg, and it was just like hanging out. I don't know, man. It's troublesome. I mean, heaven forbid somebody calls and it vibrates.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's the Pillsbury Doughboy going, oh man. But yeah, there's no good segue from this. We're trying real hard though.
Yes, yeah. Fuck this guy. That's about it, right?
Perfect. I like that. You know what? Fuck you, Ian. If you're listening.
Yes. Fuck you,
you're egotistical enough to look yourself up. Fuck you. Anyways,
absolutely.
Come find us on Patreon. No.
Yes. Find us on social media. Find us on Patreon.
Yeah, social media, Brew Crime. I'm at JT Brews Crime, but Mike's at Brew Crime. That's who you want to talk to anyways. And then patreon.com/Brew Crime. We post up early episodes ad-free. We also post early versions of the Brewery Report, which is a lot of fun. And we got a lot of other stuff going on, conversations and videos and all kinds of fun stuff up there.
We do. So shout out to our Patreon supporters. Jay is Rad, True Crime Nana, 3 Brazin Podcast, and the faves of our lives.
Bye.
Peace out, and don't be like the singer of the Lostprophets.
Rock safely.
Yes, rock safely. Don't rock disgustingly.
Yeah, no, please don't. Rock out!
All cases on Brew Crime are written by Mike and JT or a writer we credit on the episode, and sources are put into our show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at tpublic.com/stores/brew-crime-podcast, where you can purchase gear like t-shirts, phone cases, stickers, pillows, and all kinds of other cool stuff. Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo designed by Ben Greenberg. Thanks for listening to this episode of Brew Crime Podcast. What's his name from Linkin Park? I'm going so blank here.
I'm about to get called out on all the social media.
Well, no, we just edit it, and as I Google it here.
Hold on. Sorry to future Mike for having to hear that. Their biggest hits were, oh boy, where are their biggest hits? Shit. Possessing an extreme